Or Chadash, Or Chadash, Or Chadash, Al Zion Ta'ir, Al Zion Ta'ir. Shine a new light, a light upon Israel. Shine that light on our souls. Shine a new light on our generation, and we will shine that light for all to know. Or Chadash, Or Chadash, Or Chadash, Al Zion Ta'ir, Al Zion Ta'ir. Or Chadash, Or Chadash, Or Chadash, Al Zion Ta'ir, Al Zion Ta'ir. Yai-da-dai-dai-dai, yai-da-dai-dai-dai, yai-da-dai-dai-dai-dai, yai-da-dai-dai-dai, yai-da-dai-dai-dai, yai-da-dai-dai-dai. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Cantor.
Great to see you.
Great to be with you. What a beautiful song. I'm hearing it maybe for the first or second time. Very heartfelt, touching song. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a beautiful song by Rick Recht, and it just really feels like it's a new light. You know,
I love it. I love it, and I'm so glad we were able to share it with just a few people sitting in our sanctuary, and with all of you on live stream. Shabbat Shalom to you and the Hazen family who's with us and celebrating a bat mitzvah this weekend. We're so pleased to be a virtual community. We are really a real community in every way, but we're here in many dimensions all at once to celebrate Shabbat here on the heels of Purim, by the way. I'm still feeling the joy of Purim here in the room, and I hope many of you celebrated with us. But now as Purim goes out, Shabbat comes in, and we begin by welcoming Shabbat. But I guess before, am I supposed to say the prayer book first? Yes.
Sure.
Let me say before I turn to the Hazen family for leading us in candle lighting, that we hope if you choose to, that you will follow along in our prayer book. It's available just above the picture that you're seeing here. You can click on it and sort of do that split screen idea, or maybe you have a different device and you can follow along with us and hopefully feel we are all one. Or if you're just sitting back and enjoying and taking in Shabbat, that's wonderful too. We're just glad you are here. And now let us turn to candle lighting. In honor of their daughter Sophie becoming a bat mitzvah, the Hazen family is on the Zoom feed, and they are now going to lead us in candle lighting. We are on page 3.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של Shabbat. Thank you, Sophie, and to the whole Hazen family, to Mark and Dory, thank you so much for being with us. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Rabbi Schwartzman, we are ready for Kabbalat Shabbat, but how was your week? Did you have a good week? I feel like we haven't spoken.
I know. I had a great week because Purim was such a highlight.
It was great.
I had a lot to do this week for our movement, which was very meaningful and somewhat demanding, but then it ended and Purim came in and it just lifted me. So how about you? How was your week?
Also great, and just hats off to our members who put this Purim spiel together. So much work and so much love and devotion into making Purim such a festive holiday for us. So thank you.
I did miss being with everyone. I really miss sort of the energy that is here, and so I'm looking forward to at least singing in our little plexiglass zones tonight.
Sing in our bubble.
To each other.
Exactly. I will tell you, though, I had a real lift today because I watched our member, Madeline LeBeau. She's at Princeton, and she did services at her Hillel today, and it was on Zoom, and I watched it, and oh, my God, I am so proud of her.
You should be so proud. The proud Cantor. So
she does. She can, skip over cantorial school, but we won't tell her that. That's good. Well, let's turn to Kabbalat Shabbat, and in our prayer books on page 16, if you're following along in the prayer book, Kabbalat Shabbat are all the psalms that help us prepare ourselves for bringing in the Sabbath. And I start with Zamru Ladonai, which is Psalm number 98. Zamru Ladonai says, sing praises to God with all the instruments, with lyre, with the blast of the horn, and let us always find a way to sing new songs to God. This is Zamru Ladonai by Noah Aronson. Zamru Ladonai, Zamru Ladonai bechino, Yai lai lai lai, Yai lai 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 lai. Zamru Ladonai bechinor, bechinor b'kol zimra, b'chatzorot b'kol shofar, hariu lifnei hamelech Adonai. Yalalai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai. Now that we've sung those wonderful songs to God, we're ready for Lechadodi, the psalm or the piyut, the poem that helps us bring in the Sabbath bride. If you're following along in the prayer book, we're on page 20. We'll sing this melody with verses 1, 2, and 9. And at verse 9, if you wish to follow the tradition, those of you in the sanctuary, we can stand and face the door of the entrance to welcome the Sabbath bride for the final verse. Lechadodi. Lechadodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela. Lechadodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad hishmianu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shmo echad l'shem ultiferet v'litchila. Lechadodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela. Lechadodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'neilcha ki mikor haberacha. Merosh mikadem nesucha sof maaseh b'machshava tchila. Lechadodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela. Lechadodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela. Vo'i v'shalom ateret bala gam besimcha uvetzor ola. Toch emunei am segula bo'i chala Lechadodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela. Lechadodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela. We are ready for Shema and its blessings section of our service.
Yes, the Baruch Hu, the call to worship, the first prayer. In your prayer book, please join us on page 28. And whether you're comfortable doing so physically, spiritually, those who wish to stand as we chant the Baruch Hu together. So please rise and join us.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
And won't you join me on page 32, the Ahavat Olam prayer. Here in this section of our service, I want to draw our attention to tonight. It was one of Rabbi Laszlo Berkowitz's favorite prayers. I've been thinking about him a lot, as Purim was also one of his favorite holidays. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu Lemadata. The beautiful English, if you want to read along. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Won't you please be seated, and won't you join us in chanting the V'ahavta together? We are on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
The next song or prayer to which we draw our attention is Mi Chamocha. And historically, this is a song of redemption. Our ancestors, having fled Egyptian bondage, having made it across the dangerous moment at the Sea of Reeds, the Red Sea, sang this song. And as we're on the heels of Purim, we also know that that holiday is a holiday that captures redemption as well. We also came out of a dangerous moment in our lives as we escaped the horror that Haman tried to place upon our people. And so with the same joy that our ancestors sang Mi Chamocha when they came into freedom, we sing Mi Chamocha for the redemption we experience today as we relive the experience in Shushan, the experience of our ancestors on the holiday of Purim. So Mi Chamocha, page 40, please join us.
Mi chamocha b'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, nora tehilot osef eleh, malchutecha ראובנך בוקע הים לפני משה ומרים, זה לי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גל ישראל. On the next page in our prayer book, Hashkivenu on page 42 reminds us that we want God to protect us when we lie down at night. And it says in the middle of this prayer, it says, defend us against all enemies, illness, war, famine, sorrow. And I love this piece of music that I'm singing tonight by Rabbi Solomon. I rarely sing it, but I felt tonight it was one of those pieces to remind us, and especially you can hear it in the music. He paints a beautiful picture of this text with this music. It reminds us that we always need protection. Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Vehamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim Uferos Aleinu Sukat Shelomecha V'takenenu be'etz hatova milfanecha Ve'hoshienu leman shemecha Ve'hagen ba'adenu Ve'chaser me'aleinu Oyeb dever Ve'cherev ve'rav Ve'yagov Ve'chaser satan milfanenu Ve'haser satan milfaneinu u'me'achareinu u'v'tzel kenafecha Astirenu Ki el shomrenu matzilenu ata Ki el melech chadun verachum Ushemor tzeitenu uvoenu lechaim uleshalom Ushemor tzeitenu Lechaim uleshalom me'ata ve'ad olam.
Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem.
We continue now on page 46 with Hatefilla, the section of our service where we rise. If you're comfortable at home joining us as well, and we join together in the first few prayers of the Tefillah section. Adonai sefatai tiftach, ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei hakol, V'zocher chastei avot v'imahot, U'mevi geula libnei v'neihem, L'ma'an shemo be'ahava, Melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechai hakol atah rav le'hoshia, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim ve'rofeh cholim, U'matir asurim, U'mekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, U'mido melach, Melech memit u'mechayeh, U'matzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman nata lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. You are holy, your name is holy. Those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. You may be seated. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh HaShabbat. Blessed are you, O God, who sanctifies the Sabbath. We sing together now on page 60 the words of our prayer of peace, Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav, O Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, O Yisrael Amcha, Tasim leolam, ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom, ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav, O Yisrael Amcha, Tasim leolam. Shalom Rav, O Yisrael Amcha, Tasim leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et amecha Yisrael, b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav, O Yisrael Amcha, Tasim leolam. Shalom Rav, O Yisrael Amcha, Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. as we've prayed our prayer of peace for our world, our communities, and ourselves, let's take a moment now to find our own words, our own prayers of our heart as we pray silently. Shalom bimromav uyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Hopefully, the prayers of our hearts are prayers that we can share with other people, asking for health and strength, for wellness. And so it's now time in our service to think about those people who are on beds of illness, and that we think now especially for their healing and their recovery. So we say a traditional Mishaberach, Mishaberach Avotenu ve'imotenu, Avraham Yitzhak v'Yaakov, Sarah Rachel, Rivka Rachel v'Leah, Hu Yivarech et HaCholim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Aleichem, Lechachalimam Ulrapotam, Lehahazikam, Vishlach Lechem Mehira Refuah, Refuah Shlema Min Hashamayim, Refuah Tanefesh, Refuah Taguf, Hashta Ba'agala Vizman Kariv, V'nomar Amen. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal all those who are ill, including these friends and members of our congregation, Alon ben Barbara, Hannah Esther bat Krendel, Hannah Leah bat Yosef Vehendel, Yehuda ben Fischel, Richard Bizar, Henry Botak, Benjamin Cohan Mars, Babette Cohn, Benaifer Devar, Elizabeth Drabkin, Jason Eichmann, Rochelle Einstein, Michael Fisher, Shirley Gallant, Peter Gross, Jamie Hecker, Sonia Heimer, Martha Kelly, Nancy Klein, Louis Landsberg, Alan Levy, Ethel Pomerantz, Philip Ross, George Schutzer, and all of those who are victims of violence in Israel, around the world, here in our country, as well as those suffering from COVID, and those also in service to our country who need emotional, physical, and spiritual healing as well. And if those of you here in the sanctuary would like to add a name to our list, please do so. And for those of you at home, I invite you to say a name out loud. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit, as together we say Amen, and we sing the words of Mishaberach. Mishaberach imotenu mikor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Thank you, Cantor Shochet. Before we come to the last section of our service, a little sharing of tradition, perhaps something new, a little sharing on the heels of Purim, which many of us celebrated together last night and today. Some of you were with us when we had the heard the Megillah chanted so beautifully by 10 members of our congregation, each taking a chapter. And of course, many of you enjoyed the fabulous musical, which captured the story of our people's deliverance from the wicked Haman. I've been thinking about Purim a lot today, and I have many fond memories of the holiday in my hometown, of going to my own congregation to hear the Megillah read. I'm thinking of those hundreds of kids around me who had those like tin groggers. Do you remember those? Just big enough to like put your finger in and get it stuck in there. Those horrible groggers, why they ever made those. I'm remembering my own Purim carnival and the Hamantashen, which never for me had enough filling. And of course, I'm thinking of the many years that I dressed up as the beautiful Queen Esther, the heroine of our Purim story. It was only when I grew up, much later, that I began to wonder, why didn't I, or anyone actually, dress up as Queen Vashti? Well, most of you know the story. You know that Vashti is the first wife of King Ahasuerus. And the book of Esther actually tells us very little about who this woman was. The few lines in the Megillah where she is asked to dance before the king and his cronies, wearing her crown, and possibly only her crown, these few lines led the rabbis to depict her as a lewd temptress. Esther, of course, by the rabbis, is all good, all beautiful, all upright, and all kind. In recent years, you won't be surprised that we have witnessed a rise in admiration and appreciation of Vashti. She is, for many people, the first woman who stood up for her own rights. And today, in the wake of the Me Too movement, her actions resonate deeply with many of us, as they do with me. Luckily, we are part of a progressive Jewish tradition that believes in and embraces an ever-expanding understanding of our texts as well as our biblical characters. And in that spirit, tonight, I want to share a midrash with you, a creative writing that fills in the gaps of the story to find welcomed new meaning. This modern midrash, which was written by my colleague, Rabbi Rachel Bierman, sheds new light upon Vashti and Esther, and I hope it touches you in the way that it touches me. So here I share with you tonight a short modern midrash on that character, Vashti, and also on Esther. It is my husband and my custom to begin our days by breaking our fast together in the small sitting room near his bedchamber. I'm granted this extra time with my husband, King Ahasuerus, because of my position as his favorite among all the women in the harem. But just because I am his current favorite does not mean that he ignores my sisters of circumstance. And so every morning I leave my chambers, I walk along the labyrinth walls of the palace and enter my husband's suite. As I take my place at that small table where we eat, I always make sure to face the door that leads to his bedroom so that I might offer a smile and a nod of acknowledgement to whichever woman slips from his chamber that morning. These women do not hold the vaulted position of being favorite, and therefore are not afforded the luxury of breakfast after sharing my husband's bed. I can only hope that my efforts to see them, to acknowledge them, are sustenance enough. Outside of my nights in my husband's bed, the hour or so we spend together in these early mornings is the only time we have alone. In the years since I first came to the palace, Ahasuerus has become increasingly open to me, often sharing his feelings and thoughts as we sit with one another. Sometimes, when he is particularly introspective, he will speak about that first king, Vashti, the daughter of Belshazzar. And on days when I have pleased him with my wit or my beauty, he exuberantly thanks the heavens for sending him a wife who is opposite of that queen he cast aside some time ago. He always speaks of her as if I'm unfamiliar with who she was, pairing her name with asides like my first wife or the old queen, as if I didn't know why he was in need of a new queen, as if I hadn't spent months being trained by the women of the harem who whispered ceaselessly of Vashti's bravery, of how she sacrificed herself in an attempt to douse the lust and violence of the king's men. He doesn't seem to see the power that she continues to wield. My husband thinks that I am Vashti's opposite, but he is mistaken. I am not her opposite. I am her successor. The only reason that I do not drown in the poison waters of this palace is that I am standing on her shoulders. Each morning I smile at the women leaving my husband's bed because Vashti taught us that we stand and fall as one. I know well who stood with Vashti in the last moments of her life, who held her as she cried, offered her whatever comfort they could, and then watched as she walked bravely to her fate. I treat my husband's wives with respect and kindness because someday I too might fall prey to the whims of my husband's moods. And if that happens, I want to be able to look around the room and see comforting faces of friends. I survive because I learned the lesson of my predecessor. And every time one of my husband's wives gives him a daughter, he laughs, he holds the child high, and offers the same exact prayer. May she be as beautiful and as gracious as Esther. We wives, we sisters, we women smile and nod and thank him for his blessing. And then once he's left our harem, the harem walls, we gather together and form a chain one to another until we are connected to the new mother who clutches her infant close. And then, in one voice, we add our prayer. May she be safe from the whims of cruelty. May she find a path in life that fills her with meaning. May she face every challenge with the strength and courage of Vashti. My husband doesn't see us. He doesn't understand. He thinks that he was successful in his attempt to rid his life of Vashti, but we are her descendants. We have inherited a world that she helped to shape. We are her successors, and someday we will rule in her name. Until then, we honor her bravery by holding on to one another, by refusing to allow the powers of the kingdom to tear us apart. Until then, we will bless our daughters with our courage. Until then, we call to her in moments of weakness. Until then, we remember her, Vashti, in moments of strength. A beautiful new way to look at these two women.
That was so great. I
Wasn't
love that.
that
It's
amazing?
such a nice take on, what we hear every year, to hear something different like that. I love that modern midrash. It's great. I wanted to share a song about Purim, just like you remember your time in in Mainline when you
Line reform.
celebrate Purim. I remember one of my most favorite songs that I sang at my congregation in Baltimore growing up was a Purim song, Utsu Eitzah. It was, I don't know, it was just something about this song, and we hardly ever sing it, and some of you may know it, but the song tells the story that you can make your plans, but they'll be annulled, and you can scheme against us, but it will not avail, because God is with us. This is Utsu Eitzah. Utsu Eitzah ve'tufar, Utsu Eitzah ve'tufar, Utsu Eitzah ve'tufar, Dabru davar ve'lo yakum ki Immanuel. Utsu Eitzah ve'tufar, Dabru davar ve'lo yakum ki Immanuel. Utsu Eitzah ve'tufar, Dabru davar ve'lo yakum. Utsu Eitzah ve'tufar, Dabru davar ve'lo yakum ki Immanuel. Utsu Eitzah ve'tufar, Dabru davar ve'lo yakum ki Immanuel.
Beautiful.
So, thank you. It's time for our concluding prayers, page 282. If you're following along in the prayer book, please rise as we join together for Aleinu L'Shabeach and Bayom Hahu. Aleinu L'Shabeach La'adon HaKol, Lateit Gedula L'Yotzer Breshit, Shehu Notesh Shamayim V'Yoset Aretz, Umoshav Yikaro B'Shamayim Ima'al, Ushchinatu Zo Begovhei Meromim, U'Eloheinu Einod, V'Hanachnu Koreim, U'Mishtachavim U'Modim, Lifnei Melech Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, bayom ha'u yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. You may be seated.
Our service now focuses on memory, on the love we have for those whom we have lost, those who we remember every day, those who remember at holidays like Purim and other joyful times, those whose yahrzeits are observed on this Shabbat. We begin by sharing the names of members of our congregation who have lost beloved family in this last month. They are in the first period of mourning called Shaloshim. We hope this community has surrounded and supported all of you and offered you strength at this challenging time. To Alex Spiliotopoulos on the death of his brother Phoebus. To Ellen and Shirley Gallant on the death of their dad and husband Ray. To Yardena Mansour on the death of her husband Michael Phillips. We extend our condolences to Beverly Blank on the death of her dad David, and Stephen Fetter on the loss of his mom Beatrice, to Sean Flynn on the loss of his father Ed, and to Judy and Bob Rosenbaum on the death of their beloved son, Bobby Rosenbaum Jr., to Thomas Mann on the death of his dad George, to Jonathan Kosserin on the death of his brother Edward, and Debbie Schrager on the death of her aunt, Selma Kesselman. to Rebecca, Sidney, and Sam Kaiser, who lost their husband and dad, Matthew Kaiser, this past week. And to these names, we add the names of people whose yahrzeits fall on this Shabbat every year. Alfred Achenbach, James Asker, Sadie Banker, Charles Becker, Meyer Brandman, Carmen Buyen Aver, Henry Burkett, Kate Cohen, Shirley Cohen, Carol Davidson, Norman Durkee, Stanley Deutsch, Ria Dinesman, Rosalind Engels, Henry Epstein, Eric Faltashek, Harvey Fenster, Sam Fox, Shirley Fox, Robert Friedman, Herb Froelich, Sigmund Front, Lynn Giesamin, Ruth Gerchik, Leo Geretcher, Chani Goldfein, Leonard Gould, Robert Greenberg, Denver Held, Geraldine Hyman, Irving Jablin, Leah Jaffe, Jeanette Jones, Josepha Kant, Esther Cantor, Lois Kempner, Anita Kirshner, Jean Klein, Mildred Corman, Bernard Cotin, David Krieger, Anne Lampel, Carol Leonard, Isaac Levin, Harriet Levy, Melvin Levy, Samuel Moss, David Pachter, Sylvia Portney, Benjamin Posner, Shirley Rosenberg, Melvin Ross, William Safran, Shirley Schwartzman, Kurt Seligson, Leon Shands, Robert Silverman, Catherine Smith, Olga Tarika, Michael Tax, and Martin Wimmer. I'd like to pause for a moment to invite you at home to say a name that you may want to say, need to say on this Shabbat, and if I mispronounce the name, I apologize, and I hope you'll say that name also aloud now as we take a moment, giving everyone a chance to speak names aloud in here as well. The Mourner's Kaddish is on page 294. Please rise and join us as we recite this traditional prayer together. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, v'yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chaye chon uv'yome chon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, v'agala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam omei omaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudesha birchu, le'olam mimkol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'almiran v'alma v'imeru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace and comfort, strength and love and support to everyone who is mourning, to everyone who is grieving, here and everywhere. And let us say, amen. Please be seated here in the sanctuary and at home. I'm so pleased we do have just three people here with us. It feels great to pray with others in real space. Among them, our president, Amy Beckman, who I'd like to invite to come forward to share some greetings and announcements with us. Thanks for being here, Amy and Steve.
Thank you, Rabbi Schwartzman and Cantor Shochet, for leading us in such a beautiful service tonight. And I say Shabbat Shalom to everyone. I do have two memories I'd like to share of Purim's in the past. One was maybe one of the first Purim spiels we came to. The children were very young, and Cantor Shochet and Rabbi Schwartzman were dressed as Smurfs. And that was a very, very vivid memory. And of course, last year's Purim, where maybe it was the last time we gathered here as a large group in the sanctuary in the social hall. And hopefully, this will be the last year we will be so separate from each other over the holiday. I am honored to welcome you on behalf of our congregation to our worship service tonight. Whether you're here for the first time or have been here countless times before, we're delighted to have you join us. During these most challenging times, it's difficult to convey the audacious hospitality Temple Road of Shalom prides itself on delivering. Audacious hospitality is the practice of radical welcoming and reinforces our belief that we are stronger, richer, healthier community when we reflect the diversity of modern Jewish life. For those of you who are visitors tonight, albeit virtual, we hope you will join us in person when we are able to do so. It would be a joy to welcome you properly and to tell you more about our extraordinary community. Mazel tov to Sophie Hazen and Dorothy Woods and their families, who will be our B'nai Mitzvah tomorrow. We're so proud of you both and know that your family and friends are as well. Please check out our e-letter from yesterday and the latest edition of The Connection, which just came in the mail, which is also available on the website for ongoing announcements and upcoming events. And I will just point out a few. March is a very important month in my family because I have 3 birthdays to help celebrate. Naomi's, which is on March 11th, and just to give you a taste, on March 11th we have 5 events, including Baking in the Neighborhood, challah, and gluten-free challah. On March 14th, which is my husband Stephen's birthday, there is Haifa, a virtual tour of Haifa, the city of coexistence, and also a really important program that we're just really, really looking forward to, which is called Creating Our Jewish Response to the Climate Crisis. And finally, on March 30th, our son Ethan's birthday, and though it will be spring break, there is virtual bridge online that evening. So I'm sure all of you will take a look at the program and enjoy many of the wonderful events that our staff, our volunteers, our committees work very, very hard at offering to all of us. And once again, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thanks, Amy. Mine is in March also, so I'm going to come over to the Geba house and celebrate with the rest of you, your gang. So great to see all of you here in the sanctuary. And I know that we haven't quite figured it out yet, but we're getting closer to having people in the sanctuary again. And so watch your e-letters, watch your news from the temple so that if you want to be a part of being in the sanctuary, we're going to have a system in place to do that later this month, probably towards the end of the month. So we look forward to it because we really need you in here. Limited number, right. Just a few, and we'll be through RSVP. So we'll have more information. We're still working out the details, more information to make that possible. So I want to invite you to join me at home in the Kiddush. Please take a Kiddush cup. Let's stand as we sing together on page 5, I believe, the Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Ata Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. L'chaim. I want to thank Frank Conlin for the beautiful accompaniment tonight, our video streamer Rob, our on audio Graham, and Clyde, who's all with us to make these services happen. Thank you all so much. And Bob on Zoom. Thank you so much. And we're going to close with the same song that we opened our service with, Or Chadash, A New Light Shines Upon Israel. Please join me. Yai da dai dai dai, yai da dai dai dai, yai da dai 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 dai, yai da dai dai dai, yai da dai dai dai, yai da dai 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 dai. Or chadash, or chadash, or chadash, al Zion ta'ir, al Zion ta'ir. Shine a new light, a light upon Israel. Shine that light on our souls. Shine a new light on our generation, and we will shine that light for all to know. Or chadash, or chadash, or chadash, al Zion ta'ir, al Zion ta'ir. Or chadash, or chadash, or chadash, al Zion ta'ir, al Zion ta'ir. Yai da dai dai dai, yai da dai dai dai, yai da dai 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 dai, yai da dai dai dai, yai da dai dai dai, yai da dai 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 dai.
Or Chadash, may all of us take on the mantle of being a light in the world. May we bring justice, righteousness, kindness, and love, and with it light, to make the world a better place. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.